boats are only so important. What really makes the boat stand out, what makes the boat story is its human connection. And so we're here to have Byron tell us stories about his human connection with Rosa Sharon.
All right, Byron, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having us. Could you tell us a little bit about how you got into wooden boating?
Oh, at my age, I'll be 80 next month, they didn't have anything but wooden boats when I started out. And my grandfather found a broken boat on the beach, fixed it up, and I was probably about 6 or 8 years old, and that's how I got started in wooden boats.
You saw Rose, like where you were?
Well, what happened, a fellow that owned it, he'd owned it for 30 years, Charlie Stoll was his name, Sawyer Stoll Timber Company, and he was in Escanaba, Michigan. And we didn't have computers and all those things at that time, and so he'd send me a letter and something he'd read about some of our racing and sailing and schooner activities and things. And he said that he had some health issues, and he wanted the boat to come out to the West Coast. So it's kind of a heartbreaker, but I told him that I would see what I could do. Wintertime, snow and everything else back in Escanaba, Michigan. Boy, it was cold. Anyway, got on a plane, got out there, and by the time I got up there, the manager of the company that Charlie Stoll owned said that he was in a coma and I wouldn't get a chance to meet him. But he told me that the last words that Mr. Stoll said was that I was to be responsible for that boat and to find the next owner. So I wasn't faced with a lot of options.
Wow.
So I told this one friend of mine that was a boat builder, Roy Wildman. Roy bought the boat, and he and his family sailed it out around, went down to New York. That was the first and only time he ever raced. He raced Rosa Sharon in the New York Yacht Club regatta of some kind, and they were first to finish. Hauled the boat out.
Roy Wildman and his family delivered Rose to Newport Beach. On the way up from Mexico, Rose started leaking badly. Roy removed the mast and had the boat shipped to Sloan's Boatyard in Costa Mesa. He started to do the necessary repairs to make Rose sound again, but after about 1.5 years, he realized that he wouldn't be able to finish the project.
Was having difficulty in getting work done on the boat and things, Roy Wildman. And he came over to my house one day and he said, and this was in Christmas time, and I said, what's going on? And he said, people want to buy Rosa Sharon, but they're telling me how bad it is and all this kind of stuff, and it's going to be a mess and it's not worth anything, and on, negative things. And he said, so here's 2 choices. You have 2. He said, 1, you either take the boat, or 2, I'm going to cut it up. Well, so immediately I think of what this man was responding about and what my position was. Here's a man that was dying, that was counting on me to find a home for the boat. Everything else, he had everything else taken care of. So anyway, that put me in kind of a tough spot, and I said, well, I've just finished rebuilding Andale, the California 32 that I brought up from Mexico. I said, and I don't have any money left, but I'll trade you Andale, and I'll finish Rosa Sharon. So I did, and that on December 7th of 1976, Rosa Sharon became my boat. Wow. And I was the village idiot. Oh boy, everybody in town knew how stupid I was to buy that terrible boat, because I just have to cut it up anyway. And the terrible things that were being said about me, which I'm used to. But I talked to a pal of mine, and I said, well, December, how long before it'll take you to get this boat planked up? And he said, oh, about 10 days. And I said, okay, when do you start? And he said, well, I'm going to over to England for Christmas. And he said, I'll be back and I'll have it all planked up in 10 days. So he got back, planked it up, and we caulked it and paid it and just had the hull done.
did you think you were taking on a project that maybe you would never finish, or did you know that it was going to end up being a boat that was really special to you over your life?
I suppose that there have been boats that I've had that most people would think that way, but I never saw anything but the finish. I knew what it would be when I was done,
Yeah.
and it never occurred to me that it wouldn't be done. We just fix it up, take it out and use it, and fix it up and take it out and use it, and fix it up and take it out and use it. And I hauled it out, and we took the engine out of it, and I didn't have the money to pay all of the shipyard expense that we were doing on it, so I gave them the engine out of that, and got the boat back in the water, and we sailed it around for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years before I finally got enough money back to buy an engine and put in there. But, well, everything we did was fun. First of all, that's a prerequisite. You know, if you can't have a good time, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And so I wanted to make a race over to Hawaii, and then go up north and leave it up in Washington, my hometown area. So we entered in, let's see, I think it was 81. We raced from San Diego to Maui, and it was a wooden boat race. There were probably 20 boats in it or so. One thing that made me feel good is the fellow that inspected all of the boats came by after looking at all of them to make sure that they were seaworthy and things. And he said, I want to congratulate you because your boat is the best prepared boat of any of the ones in this regatta. So that made me feel good.
The main reason Rose was so ready for the regatta is that the year before, Byron had hired a small army of marine tradesmen to get the boat ready to go. My friend Tosh and I replaced both the fore and the main chain plates, the shear plank, the covering boards, the bulwarks, and the rail caps. Patty and Van Hope had brought all the paint and varnish up to Bristol condition. Bill Emsley rebuilt the Perkins motor. Ed Wall rewired the boat and brought the cooking and electrical systems up to ABS standards. It was a complete surprise when Byron invited me to be one of the crew. This was the trip of a lifetime.
One of the things I'll tell you about our trip to Hawaii, we were in pretty good shape, but it was really, really light. And about that time, the halyard at the top of the main broke, and it was for the, what was it, the gully?
It's the Gully Peak, yeah.
Yeah.
Fisherman Peak halyard, which that's where we hang the big gullies and everything.
And he said, well, I'll go up there. And I said, no, I don't, we got to figure out a way. And you're not going to go up there. I'm afraid somebody get hurt. And so I'm down below. I'm working around, figuring what we're going to do. We had to run off about we had to get back into some wind,
Mhm.
and the other guys, I guess, didn't. But anyway, what we're gonna use here and what sails we're gonna get, how we're gonna get this thing rigged up down there, wondering all this kind of stuff, and then come back up. He'd already gone to the top and restrung it. Boy, was I mad.
There were a bunch of schooner sailors, you know, was Hampton, who had Wanderer, and Brad Downey, who had Lucky Star, and they said, well, without that halyard, we're toast when we got it. So, you know, I'm a little guy, so I clumb up the hanks of the main. And,
Really?
yeah, with a line in my teeth, and because they were all, we can't let Byron know, because he was adamant about nobody's going up there. And so, just about the time I went and got through the shiv, here comes Byron out the hatch. I told you not to go up there.
Well, I thought you were down by the time I found
No, I was on my way down.
You didn't have a safety line, man?
No, there was no safety line available.
Yeah.
None. So my safety line was the one I put through
Was
the
the one I
shiv,
put
and
it
then I put it around me. And then...
Byron had assembled a crew of fun-loving characters. We were all experienced and serious sailors, but not so serious that we couldn't have a good time and really enjoy ourselves. Sailing a classic boat across the Pacific is more about the experience than a quest for a trophy. We were here to have fun, enjoy ourselves, and eat well. There was a lot of heckling, ribbing, and practical jokes pulled on each other during this voyage. And even though we really didn't know each other at the start, we all became good friends and shipmates at the finish. We all came away with a great fondness and respect for the Rose of Sharon, her designer, Starling Burgess, and her builders, Eastern Shipbuilding. Rose was comfortable, sea kindly, and fast. We were first to finish.
And I don't know whether it was Bill or one of them said, you know, we've got enough food, we've got enough water, we've got enough time. We could just go through the finish line and then go on to Japan.
Tahiti.
Or Tahiti, right?
Yeah, it was just, we had so much fun. It's kind of sad that it was over.
Yeah, it was.
It was quite a sight to see Lahaina Harbor full of so many classic sailboats. The awards presentation and luau was held at the old Lahaina prison, a fitting venue for this lot. Bob Sloan's son Robbie accepted the award for the schooner Spike Africa, first on corrected time. Brad Downey and Byron Chamberlain accepted the award for Rose of Sharon, first to finish and best elapsed time. But for some of us, the voyage was far from over. We sailed from Lahaina to Oahu to meet up with the Transpac racers. We would take on fuel and provisions, and then be off to Southeast Alaska. We had a crew change for the trip up to Sitka, Alaska. A very good friend of mine, Eric Pyman, joined us. He sailed aboard Spike Africa in the race and learned to fish there. Byron's wife Sherry joined us, as well as some good friends, Bill and Susie Nielsen. Bill Emsley and myself stayed on. The trip from Hawaii to Sitka, Alaska was everything we could have hoped for. A flat, calm, 16-day motorboat ride. Kinda boring, but hey, that was a good thing. You sometimes can get stuck thrashing to weather till you get up into the high. This was an incredible change from the weather in Hawaii. We slipped into Sitka under the drizzle of Southeast Alaskan sunshine. The beauty of these two places is equally matched. Both are spectacular. You just have to dress differently. We were going to go down the inside passage through Southeast Alaska and through Canada. There wasn't much sailing, but the waters were calm and there was a lot to see and do. You have to be a little careful where you anchor. Tides up here are from 12 to 15 feet. Fishing and lumber up here are big business, and at this time in Wrangell there was still an operating cannery. Here the college students come up from the Pacific Northwest and make the big bucks working in the canneries. We were given a tour through the cannery and were able to see firsthand the canning process from start to finish. Some of us pulled together and chartered a float plane to go up to the LeConte Glacier just outside of Wrangell. This was a fantastic way to see the awesome beauty of Alaska. My friend Eric Pyman left us in Wrangell and took the Alaskan ferry back to Washington. The rest of us continued on through Canada. Came back into the United States and went through customs at Friday Harbor. I left the boat here. This was the end of the voyage for me, and I hopped on a plane and headed back to sunny Southern California. Washington was Byron's home state, and he left the boat here for quite a few years. During those years, he was able to make some real progress in the restoration and upgrades of Rose. He had all new decks and cabin tops put on the boat. When he did this, he took off the doghouse and brought her back to her original configuration. The problem is, sailing in the Pacific Northwest isn't all that great. In the mid-90s, Byron brought Rose back to Southern California to sail with his friends. And wow, we were all really glad to have Byron and the Rose back in town. Byron was always very generous with his invitations, and sometimes he would have more than 20 people sailing on the boat. Yes, it was always a good time sailing with Byron on the Rose.
It's pretty exciting to know that a boat that you own and loved for so long is now going to be used to train hundreds of sailors, and it's going to continue to be used for, you know, a long, long time and maintained, used to train craftsmen as well as they maintain the boat. Was that a part of your decision to donate Rose to the trust?
That was my decision.
That was
But
your decision.
because of Wayne Hiddle, we've been friends since before I owned the boat, even though he's so young. And I knew that that would be the right place for the boat. And when, I guess all of us have the same thing, but it's not the value that's important, it's the future and the meaning of what you've had in the boat, and knowing that Wayne is going to take care of it, and what he has going with this new program. God gave me a wonderful thing.
Now that Rose is under the care of the Maritime Preservation Trust, all we have to do is
Fix it up, take it out and use it, and fix it up and take it out and use it, and fix it up and take it out and use it.
So
Nobody knows that better than Wayne.
As humans, we are mortal. We have a lifespan. So many years. But what we do with our life, the fun we have with our friends, and the legacy we leave behind can go on and on for generations. Charlie Stoll and Byron Chamberlain did a great thing, sharing the Rose of Sharon with all of us. Byron has given us the helm. Now it is our turn. What good times await the next generation.
Like when you're on the masthead, you just see the sails like that. I was like, did you get that shot?
I did.